Yes. People. Friday, November 1st. And it is time, election time. You know what I'm saying? We got some shit for y'all. As always, it's the Bols podcast that is. Philadelphia, Duke the Barbershop, to the world. World. We are everywhere. Sleeves the hustle all day long. Here with my good brother, Staff, the militant one, a.k.a. Brother Byron. Dread on the motherfucking lens, but on the cam with the fam. And then we got a special guest. Well, it's family all day long, you know what I'm saying? We like to say, Lady Miss Vishanna in the building. What's up with you? You know what I'm saying? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
You
know what I'm saying? We're happy to have you. You know what I'm saying?
I'm happy to be here.
So, we got you here because, you know, if y'all didn't know in the background that one of them, I forgot, I think it was the episode before. When
couldn't really hear.
Couldn't really hear, but she was dropping them that science about Cardi and all that shit that was going on. Motherfuckers. So anyway, Selection Day coming up, you know, and by the next time we shoot a show, we'll have a new Presidente. All right, so, you know, let's toss to that real quick. I don't know who the fuck it's going to be, but...
To democracy.
Yeah, exactly, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
If that's what you want to call it.
And this John, we're going to call this John possibly Vote or No. You know what I'm saying?
Vote or No or Dance Party with Beyonce. Y'all comment below and let us know which one you want.
Dance Party with Beyonce. Yeah, Kamala, she's bringing out all the tricks.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm going to go with the Dance Party for Beyonce.
Oh, I like that title.
I got my main man 50 grand in the background on that one. So I'm going to go with that one.
So she's already kicking it off. So might as well go ahead on, right on in.
No.
No?
No.
Go ahead. What you got to say?
No.
Say what you got to say.
Listen, man. We try our best here not to do politics, but such is life and such is the time. You know, and it's election time, and this one is a motherfucker. So, you know, we're gonna speak on it. And I've been,
if you're comfortable, if you're willing to share.
I mean that's what we're here for.
Right.
They said the shit might be called Vote or No. You know what I'm saying? Or Dancing with Beyonce. Y'all pick. I don't give a fuck.
Dance Party.
You know what I'm saying?
Dance Party with Beyonce.
Whatever, man. You know what I'm saying? But I've been voting since I could, which was 2000. All right, so every major presidential election I have voted in, and I'm gonna keep it 1,000. This one, I'm up in the air because I'm tired and sick and tired of feeling like, you know, my shit really don't count. One and two, also like a. Respectfully, Kamala, fuck with you. You know what I'm saying? Definitely ain't with red and orange hat ball. But like a lesser of two evils, I gotta, you know, try and do a little bit more research on young lady and that and the third. But at the end of the day, I voted for Joe Biden in the last joint. You know what I'm saying? Senile Joe. You know what I'm saying? And
Sleepy Joe.
Yeah, exactly. You get what I'm saying? You still call him, but you know what I'm saying? But listen, man. That's how I've been feeling coming up to this joint. But as is, like, real talk, like, I'm on the same type shit again. Like, man, I ain't fucking with Trump at all. Fuck out of here. Mm-hmm. And Kamala, like, I just don't want to because, she's the, like, listen, respectfully, with what she's pushing, like, I hear it. Yeah, I'm going to do a tax cut. Tell me how, and you're going to offer $6,000 for first-time parents and a $25,000. Yeah, show me how, 1, 2, and stop hitting me with all that. We're inflationary times, people. I think we would all agree. Mm-hmm. When the fuck is y'all going to raise the standard of pay, period, like across the board? why that? I mean, we all got our different issues and differences. Like, respectfully, with what's going on with women be able to make, and I'm glad a female is here to make their own decisions when it comes to their bodies. Absolutely on that shit, and that's why I feel her too. So I'm swaying to seeing me at the polls possibly on Tuesday, but I've been I've been arguing all you motherfuckers for a while about this shit because it's still hypocrisy, and I just hate how they throw. Like right now, it's like election overload. It's fucking
That's how it
overload.
always is this time of year. Yeah.
It's
Dog,
always
I
like
don't
that, bro.
remember this chaotic. Like where it's the scammers on my phone, the text messages on my phone, every other fucking commercial. I already knew the commercials was coming. That's one thing. But the people in the street, my man, you done seen me for about 3 weeks straight on this bus. Stop asking me did I vote yet? I vote, man. I'm
Brother, are
registered.
you registered
You
to
know
vote?
what I'm saying? I'm registered, brother. All right? Like, god damn. So, and I just see people out and it's like, when we break it down, and actually I want you to break it down because you put more insight. That's why you actually fucked it up more for me months ago when we started talking about the Electoral College and the breakdown of that and how things have happened in the past where, that vote just comes in and overrules and, I did all that voting and that shit ain't mean nothing. You know what I'm saying? So that's where a lot of people was held up on too. I've said a lot. Floor is you guys. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we have a guest, so
Yes,
Vishanna, you
yes.
feel free to.
So it's not necessarily that when it comes to as far as the electoral college is concerned that your vote doesn't matter. What determines the amount of electoral college votes that each state get depends on that size of the state and the individuals that actually do come out and vote because each state has their own amount of electoral college votes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessarily per se that your vote doesn't matter, and it's unfortunately like that's usually the consistent mindset when it comes to specifically us as African Americans is that's always our biggest gripe as well. It doesn't matter anyway. Our vote doesn't count anyway. No, your vote does count. Your vote not only does it count on the federal level when we start talking about the presidential elections, but more importantly, it counts on the city level. You know what I mean? The state level regarding
Locals, yeah.
where you live, because the reality is those are the things that affect you the most.
Absolutely.
So for me, when it comes down to voting all across the board, those are the things that I look at when I make a determination on which party that I'm going to vote for. For me, it's not always necessarily the person, it's the party. And that is what has determined my vote this go round, is that, granted, I'm not a fuck Trump. I'm going to be honest. I heard you when you said it. I hear a lot of people when they say it, but me, I don't feel that way about him. I understand that he's rough around the edges. He doesn't appeal to a lot of people. But for me personally, that's kind of the thing I like about him, is that he is who he is. Who he's not, he'll never be. He's not trying to front or fraud about who he is, what he has going on, what his stances are. He doesn't mince his words. And by me kind of sort of being the same type of person, it resonates for me.
Mm-hmm.
When I start to look at the parties and just the direction in which they're going, I personally, looking at everything that has gone on from the 2020 election to now, I can't get behind that party.
Mm-hmm.
So even if Kamala Harris was able to come to the table, give us clear cut her policies, what she stands for, what she's really going to do, gave us all of that with no apprehension, no where we're confused about what she has going on, because a lot of people are confused. Like, all right, 1 minute you're saying this, the next minute you're saying that, and then today you got this accent, yesterday you had that one. We're all over the place.
The pander is
So
crazy sometimes.
for me, it's more so or less, it's about where I have watched this country go from 2020 to 2024, while we have been underneath this administration that is connected to the Democratic Party, and the direction in which I feel they're going to continue to take this country, that I can't get behind.
So you don't have any particular party loyalty. It's a more so you vote more so based on what the candidate has to offer.
To a degree, I would have to say yes, because, for example, I voted for Barack Obama.
Right.
We'll go back to that. So I did vote for Obama. The first term, I voted for him. The second term, I didn't. I didn't vote at all the second term. When we had Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, again, I didn't vote at all. Because at that point, it was kind of how Sleeves felt about which one was the lesser of the two evils. There was a lot of scandal behind her and the things that she had going on. And then with him, there was a lot of, I don't know how I feel about some of the things that you say. So it was just like, yeah, no. So in that election, I didn't vote at all. When we got to the second run in 2020, when it came to Joe Biden, Donald Trump, I voted Trump. I did not vote Biden. But I also, again, at that point, you said what?
Red like
Yeah. So at that point, I also started to look at my vote from a different perspective as who I am as a person.
Okay.
The things that I stand on, where my morals stand, where my beliefs stand. And I think that was at the point where I really realized, like, yo, you're a conservative. Like if you know what I mean, if you take the pretty wrapping off the box of who you are at the core of as a person, you lean more to the conservative. So at that point, I voted for Trump.
See, well, that's not okay, two things. So that's not surprising to me because, I mean, a lot of black people are actually conservative. Like a lot of black people have conservative views to some degree. Now, me personally, I'm conservative about some things. I'm liberal about other things, right? I think a lot of people can relate to that. But right now, during this election cycle, and I want to ask you this, we hear more about black men being Trump supporters than you hear about a black woman being a Trump supporter. So I just would like to know, what about him and his policies in particular appeal to you so much? Like, what do you think he's going to change when he gets in office that's going to make things better for you as a black woman?
Well, since Sleeve brought up the topic as far as like the women's rights and the woman's right to choose and so on and so forth, at this stage in my life, I am pro-life.
Okay.
At one point, I was pro-choice. I don't think, and I think I believed I was pro-choice due to lack of education and the impact that abortion in general, because let's remember when they start talking that the Blue Party preaches about women's rights, reproductive rights, they always do so in an avenue where they push your right to choose when it comes to killing your baby, as opposed to looking at it from a standpoint of reproductive rights. If you flip it, it is your right to reproduce. So the same way you want to come into my neighborhood as a black woman, and you want to come into my community, and you want to push and harp that I have the right to kill my baby, I need you to begin to push that I have the right to keep my baby the same way. So for me, I had to realize that due to lack of education, I made decisions to be pro-choice when in actuality, I am pro-life. So again, when I say I cannot get behind that mindset with that party, that's one of the things that everybody says, oh, Trump's trying to get rid of abortion. He's not trying to get rid of abortion as a whole. He's leaving it to the states, which it should be left to a degree to the states on where they put a cap on when a woman can or cannot have an abortion. So for example, here in Pennsylvania, the cap is like 23 weeks and 6 days.
Okay.
Up to that point, a woman can have an abortion, which is what, just short of 5 months pregnancy?
about,
no, matter of fact, just shy of 6 months of pregnancy.
But that's not the norm. Like,
but again, it's not the norm. However, this is something that was left to the states.
And I think that's still crazy because a lot of states got fucked up views on that, and they don't care if a woman had a crazy circumstance where, like, you might have got raped, this, that, and the third, and you're having a fucking child, and you can't have an abortion in that state because they on some bullshit. Like, I think that's crazy.
So do we?
I think that's crazy to me. I think that should be like nationally, that across the board, that should be up to
abortion
women,
should always be on
or
the
it should
table.
be at least stipulations that like shit like that should be in there, that shouldn't even be a question. For you to tell a woman, no, you still should have it. Fuck out of here. Like,
So
that's
let me
crazy.
let me pose it this way, right? It is still very much an option. So let's take for example, God forbid, if a woman is raped and she finds out that she is with child. You have some states that right now, I believe you have up until like 6 weeks where you can go and take the abortion pill.
Mhm.
You find out fairly soon after this sexual assault that you are with child. Are you going to wait past the 6 week mark? I doubt it. Because if you don't want to have a child that is a product of a sexual assault, you're not waiting
Right.
till you are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months pregnant to get rid of that child.
Well, I'm not a woman, so I
But
I
for
gotta-
me personally,
sure,
as a
son?
woman, if this was my circumstance, I'm not waiting that long.
right.
Like, because again, when they do rape kids, things of that nature, pregnancy tests, those things are part of that process.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? This is something that they're looking the same way they're checking for STDs, so on and so forth. This is what's going on. So if you find out fairly early that you are pregnant with a baby from a sexual assault, I'm not waiting on that to go on ahead and make that decision. So when we stand on that argument, it's kind of like, all right, who in their right mind, and I'm just being honest, is going to wait till you 23 weeks and 6 days in after a sexual assault to decide that you want to have an abortion?
Well, see, that's what I was going to touch on. Like I said, I'm going to tread lightly because I'm not a woman, right? But I would say I could see how it could be difficult, not for you per se,
Mhm.
but maybe for other women to make that ultimate decision and say, you know what, I'm going to terminate this pregnancy. Because even though it did result from a rape, half of the child is theirs. And we also don't know the circumstances around the rape, right? Like we assume it's some crazy homeless dude grabbed you, pulled you in an alley or something like that. But the rape could be a result from an assault from a boyfriend or somebody that you were actually in an intimate
A parent.
relationship with. Well, I'm not saying that. That's still weird to me.
Yeah,
I'm just saying it
that's
could be
nasty shit going on out here.
it could be somebody that you actually were in an intimate relationship with. It could be a fiance. It could be a husband or something like that. So I could understand the woman saying, you know what, I'm really going to take some time to think about it. And maybe other things occur later on down the road, 6 months later. And she's like, you know what, I can't go through with this. I can't have a baby with this person. You know, it's not going to work. So I can't really put a timetable on it and say, you got raped. So by this time next week, you should have your mind made up as to whether or not you're going to keep this baby or not. You know what I mean? I feel like you got to give a woman as much. It's a very traumatic event. And I don't even know how long it takes for her to process what actually happened. You know what I'm saying? Before she can go ahead and make this other decision about the life that she's now carrying inside of her. So I can't put a timetable on that.
And I understand that. So from a perspective of being a woman and being a woman who has had an abortion, abortion in and of itself is a traumatic event. Regardless, and when you speak as to in regards to rape, the common face of rape is not you are dragged into an alley by some individual who you don't know. The common face of rape is that the assailant is somebody who you know, somebody you've come in contact with, somebody who they know you know them.
Right. Yeah.
So being a woman who has had an abortion, that in and of itself is traumatic. I can, at 43 years old, clearly, vividly remember the very first abortion I ever had. I mean, clearly, vividly remember it. I can remember crying on this table because my mother at that time was forcing me to make a decision that I did not want to make. But I'm underage. So that in and of itself is traumatic. You know, when you make that decision, it is traumatic. I don't know too many people that walk off like, oh, cool. No, if you can do that, there's something questionable about you. So just in general, that whole process is a traumatic process. But as me being a Black woman in America, when I take the time out to look at the fact of the matter that since abortion has come into play in 1973, 19 million black babies have been aborted. That is insane to me. That is a literal form of genocide. 19 million black babies from 1973 to now? Come on.
Now, where do you get those numbers
That's a
from?
lot. That is statistical fact. You can go look it up yourself.
Okay.
You
Well,
can look it up
Google.
yourself.
You know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
Okay. I mean, you put them. You gotta have sources. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
we'll fact check that.
You can absolutely fact check it.
So we're not going to say that you are completely against abortion, right? There are some
No,
circumstances.
absolutely not. No, I'm not completely
Okay.
against
But
it.
you
There
do
are-
believe it should be left up to the states to
Yes, and
determine.
I believe that there should be a cap or a time limit on it. I do. When you take the time out and you look, just do some of the research and pay attention to some of the laws that some of these states are trying to pass, I'm going, whoa, wait a minute. What are we doing here? Like, this is a whole human being. And we can take Philadelphia right in and of itself. We're all very much familiar with Dr. Gosnell. Like, we're not going to pretend we don't
Right, I
know
remember that, yeah.
who this man
Well, I hadn't heard
is
that. Haven't
or
thought
who
about
he
that in a long
was.
time.
And in his, if you ever took the time out to watch the documentary about him, in his mind, he really believed he was helping these women. And he was doing these abortions so late term that one of the individuals who worked with him said that he set out his mouth after he did an abortion on a woman, a late term abortion on a woman. He made the statement that the baby was big enough to get up and walk down the street and get on a SEPTA bus. Like,
Well,
what?
yeah, there's no doubt that he was a monster. He definitely did some very
So
brutal
again,
things.
you also I have to question the mindset of the people who are willing to do this, let alone the mindset of the people who are willing to fight for this to even be on the table.
Okay. So we know the pro-life policies are something that you really are going for. Is there anything, I know there's got to be something else. So tell us the most important thing about the Trump campaign, the most important thing on his agenda that appeals to you that you think is going to benefit you the most.
So I don't necessarily always look at things per se as how it's going to benefit me as an individual. I look at how it's going to benefit America in a whole.
So you're not worried about what you get in return for your vote?
Not necessarily, not specifically like, oh, I vote for Trump, I'm going to get $1,400. No. No. I look at how is it going to benefit the country in a whole, because also in taking a long, hard look at myself, I've realized just as much as I am pro-life, I am pro-black, I am absolutely a patriot, I'm an American. I don't know what it is to live in another country. I don't know what that looks like. I would know how to survive anywhere else. I know how to survive here, and with the rights and the freedoms that we have and the liberties that we have here. So the things that go on in this country and who is running that directly affect me because I'm here, I'm in this country. So when I start to look at things like the migrant situation, that affects me here in this country, because it's bankrupting cities, and it's bankrupting cities that are predominantly black and brown cities. That's a problem for me. When I start to look at, again, the whole women's right issue, these things are pushed predominantly in black and brown communities. When you start to just look at it's how does it affect the community that I live in?
But I want to ask you this: what would the Democratic Party have to do to get you on board with them again? And I say again because I know you voted for Obama. You stated first election around.
What would they have to do?
Like if I'm
I have
campaigning,
to
I'm a
laugh at that.
Democrat. I want to win you back, right? What do I need to do? Do I really just have to have a bunch of Republican type policies, or like what do you want from me as a Democrat? Like what has turned you away from me?
Why you ain't fucking with me no more?
More. Yeah, how come you don't want me no more?
You don't want me no more and shit.
Because you're our main. You make up the bulk of our demographic, right? At least that's
Well,
what they
then
try to
I
tell
guess-
you, black.
I guess
Yeah.
you got to
men.
talk
But
about the people that's running for Democrat right now.
For me, and this is probably going to
yes,
be
for
like
you in particular.
a interesting answer for a lot of people. The Democratic Party would have to remember that God comes first. That this country said that it was a country that was built upon God.
So you outright saying you definitely want. Well, I can't say. Okay, but let me ask you this: do you want religion and politics mixed like that? You just said God. That's not a religious thing.
I mean,
It's more spiritual.
to a degree, wasn't it always? Didn't they say one nation under God, indivisible?
But it's supposed to be a
with
separation of like
liberty?
church and state and all this other stuff. You know what I'm saying?
But
But
you
no,
hear-
I hear what you're saying.
But you feel that from the red side?
I mean, they try to make it appeal like as if they are a Christian kind of, Now, are their actions Christian?
To
I've
be
never
complete, all
gotten
right.
that
So to be
from that at all,
completely
but-
honest with you, when it comes to politics in general, you're never going to, from either party, fully get that because when it comes to the agendas, the ideologies, the things that have to be pushed, all of the other factors that come into place as far as these things got to go to the House and this person has this say so and you got to get this vote and that vote. The individual, no matter what party they sit in, is going to find themselves at some point compromising their belief system. However, I will stand behind a party that is attempting or making it appear that they are attempting to take us in that direction, then take us so far away from it. Like so far away from it that it makes you question.
Emphasis on so.
That it makes you question. Because for me, one of the things that I'm looking at when I look at this election is it, for me, oftentimes feels like on a spiritual level, in the spiritual realm, like this is a literal battle between good and evil. When I'm looking at what's going on with the parties. So I cannot.
So do you really feel the Republican? Which party do you feel is good, and which do you feel is evil?
I think she already broke it down.
Yeah, but I don't want to put words in her mouth. So, I say feel. Which do you feel? I'm not saying you actually believe this party is evil. Or is
Which
that too
one-
harsh of a question to
Which
ask?
one
it's
do I
not. She just
feel?
said good
Because you
and
said you
evil.
feel like it's a battle
Which
between
one
good
do
and
I
evil.
feel is pushing a more demonic agenda? The Democrats, who I affectionately call the Democrats. Everybody knows that this is what I call them. I have no qualms by posting on my social media. I say it outright. Absolutely, I do.
Can you give me a little background on why you feel that way?
Yep. Don't
So-
hold back. Go ahead.
You got a whole slogan
we
and,
talk
and
about
a
this
whole
all
joint.
the time, me and you.
You know what I'm
So
saying?
So right now,
I need to know.
you have what I feel to be a literal attack on children in this country as well as women. I feel as though to have had abortion buses outside of your DNC rally was an absolute blood sacrifice. If you look at the gist of it, you were
That's wild.
promoting individuals who were at this rally to go outside to these Planned Parenthood buses, have abortions, things of the like.
At a rally?
That at a rally.
What
That's
the
a
fuck?
literal,
What?
for me, being a follower of the kingdom of Christ, that is a blood sacrifice. That is an absolute no for me.
Do you know which rally this
When
was?
I believe it was the one that was in, was it Georgia? Was it Atlanta? Where was she at? We'd have to look it up, but I'm trying to remember if that was the one where it was. When we sit and you have So you have a pastor right now, right, who's going around to, I know his first name is John. I cannot pronounce his last name. It's like Awajuku or something of the sort, but basically it translates to one who knows God. This gentleman is going around right now to school boards around the country, and he is taking literature that is in the schools, middle school to high school age children, literature that is in the schools that, and he's reading it at these school board meetings where he is being put out by police, escorted out by police because the nature of this literature is too graphic to read at a school board meeting to adults, but it is in the libraries in schools of middle school age children. These books
Oh wow.
show things like individuals naked. They show children how one woman performs oral sex on another woman. They show things.
So comic pornos, basically.
Yes. Yes, he actually got put out of a school board. Yes, he actually got put out of one school board meeting because he was there, and I believe it was in a school board in North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken, where he was there to defend a 15-year-old young lady who was forced in school to read from a book that was basically soft porn.
And this content, is middle school.
Yeah, no, she's 15, so this is maybe like high school.
Yeah.
She didn't want to read from it because she was uncomfortable. She was forced to read out loud from this book. Her and her parents took this to the school board, and basically it was like, oh, well, we can't do anything. But then when this pastor is coming to these school board meetings and he's reading from these books, y'all cutting him off because him speaking about things like penis entered into her vagina and her vagina got moist and slippery when she got aroused is too graphic for you as an adult.
But it's in the library.
But it's in the libraries of children in the schools. That's insane to me.
Okay.
Now just a question with that being said, were these type of books in there during the Trump era as well? Like, you get what I'm saying? Is this something that's just been...
It just popped up during this
you know what I'm saying? Just something new, or just something like, you know what I mean? I'm not saying you know all that, but that's what makes my head...
I don't know all of that, but I'm going to be honest with you. I don't recall during the Trump administration where, and as me being an early childhood educator, I don't recall during that administration where you had drag queens coming into daycare centers performing for children. I'd have to look and see if that was a thing.
I think the drag story time has actually been going on for a while. I think there was some during the Trump administration. I don't think that's a new thing.
Like, because they've been rolling with their rights and doing their whole situation for a minute now. So it's, you know.
And we know who that was courtesy of, but we're going to leave that alone.
Well, let me switch speed a little bit here. I know I asked you earlier about getting a return or getting something in return for your vote. And you said that that's not really something you really focus on too much. You look at, I guess, how it affects, I guess, the bigger picture of people. Oh, me personally, I understand that, but I'm big on vote should be an exchange. You know what I mean? Like, the candidate supposed to promise me something, right? Me and my people, something that we're going to benefit from. You get in the office, you're supposed to give me this in return for putting you in office. Now, we know they're all politicians, so they might lie and say whatever, and when they get in office, they do something different. But for me, that's one of the main things I look for. So if I'm going to choose a candidate, my candidate definitely has to have a black agenda, not an everybody agenda. You know what I mean? Because I'm not sure what your background is. You know what I mean? But I know me, Sleeves, my fan from VA, you know what I'm saying? I know we are all black Americans, and actually, if you probably did the research, our families probably go back centuries due to the slave trade, you know what I mean? So we're not immigrants, you know what I mean? Our people have been here for centuries, for a very long time. And so we've undergone chattel slavery, Jim Crow, all the other terrible things that this country has put black people through. My top thing is reparations. Does my candidate have a reparations agenda? Is it even on the agenda for Black people? You know what I mean? So that's something I look for. And if the candidate doesn't even want to touch on that or wants to dance around that, then it's not my candidate per se. Now I know some people might think, well, that's a pipe dream. We definitely had
exactly
this conversation
where I'm
before.
at with that one.
But at one point in time, civil rights was a pipe dream. You know what I'm saying?
And you said get in history. Like,
I just
you have to get into the history of the Democratic Party then at the same time.
But it was the radical Republicans that actually helped free. You know, the parties and their policies
Black people
and their
used to
message change. They
Black
can
people
bounce
used
around.
to vote Republican.
I love
back
that
in the day.
that we went there. I appreciate that you went there. That you went to the age-old ideology that at some point the parties changed, right?
I mean, that is true though.
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna go with that narrative, right? So the Democrats are, in essence, if we go with that narrative, they're the party for the people, right? You know, we the people. They're the party for the poor, the party for the middle class, the party for the working class, the party for the Black man, they're the party of inclusion. You know what I mean? They're the party for the people. They are the ones.
That's not to cut you off. That's every party feels like that's who they are. If you ask Republicans, they'll tell you we're the party for the poor.
Yo, have you
We're
seen
the
any
party for
Republicans
Black
in
people.
your Black neighborhood?
Have I seen what?
Any Republicans in your Black vote?
No. I'm not saying
You know what I'm saying?
they're in my neighborhood or they're my neighbors.
They're not.
They'll definitely be your coworkers.
No,
They can definitely be in places you might not expect.
I'm saying
But
that
they'll say what they want you to think they are.
Mm.
Everybody says that I'm for these people. I'm for these people. I'm for these people. There are
best
people,
hustlers in the world, man.
there are people who will say that the Democrats say those things, but it's not true. There are people who will say that the Republicans say those things, but it's not true. But everybody has to say that because you need to appeal to all those groups of people.
Absolutely, and I agree with you. And if we just take a moment, right? Because all three of you are originally from Philadelphia, born and raised?
Yep.
Okay. We know I'm not originally from Philadelphia, born and raised in North Jersey, but I've been here now for about 22 years. So, in essence, I'm from Philadelphia. I've spent as much time here as I did where I was born and raised. So, I have an affection for this city. I will not say that I don't. I have an affection for the people here. I have to say I admire how hard you all ride for this city. Like, I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. No matter how good, bad, ugly, in between, y'all ride for y'all city. This is what you do. So when I mentioned regarding the voting, not just on a federal level, when we start to look at it on a city level, I took the opportunity to do a little bit of research regarding Philadelphia and where it stands when it comes to the Democrat Party. So Philadelphia is pretty much known as a one-party city, right? Philadelphia has been Democrat at the mayoral level since 1952. So a little bit over about 7 decades. Philadelphians have voted Democrat, right? That's what they've done. And that's at the mayoral level. Philadelphians have voted at the federal level, president-wise, since 1963, when they voted for Lyndon B. Johnson. We all know that he was given he saved the Black folks because he signed in the Civil Rights Act of 1964, but all he did was sign in an act that was already in the works for JFK. It was something he had worked on, and he had a proverbial gun to his head when he made the decision to sign in this act. Like, this was the big push when he took over after JFK was assassinated. So Philadelphia in and of itself has been blue for a very long time, right? So I took the opportunity. And see,
got
I'm
notes.
Notes, you know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna come with the facts. So we know that, right? Philadelphia ranks number 6 when it comes to it ranks 6th out of the 10 largest major cities here in the United States. Are we also all aware that Philadelphia is also affectionately known as the largest, poorest city in the country?
Yeah.
Okay. So Philadelphia has a population of about 1.6 million people. When we say Philadelphia, we're talking about Philadelphia County. So of about 1.6 million people, we're going to keep in mind that I said Philadelphia has been voting at the mayoral level Democrat for over 7 decades. Right now, we have 17 city council members. 14 of those seats are occupied by Democrats. 2 are for working families. 1 is a Republican. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of statistics regarding just the poverty here in this city, right? Because we know that poverty can have a mass effect on lots of different things all across the board. So just poverty-wise, pre-pandemic, about 23% of Philadelphians lived below the poverty line. So this is pre the pandemic, so prior to 2020. And at around 2021, the percentage was about 22.8%. And in 2023, it dropped down to 20.3%, which was the lowest it has decreased that it has had in over a decade, right? So what classifies you as living below the poverty line is those are individuals who make less than $26,000 a year, puts you below the poverty line. So you have 11% of those people who actually live in what is referred to as deep poverty, meaning they make about half of that. So they make about $13,000 a year. If you want to look at that percentage-wise in numbers, let's remember I said Philadelphia has a population of 1.6 million people. So that is over 350,000 people living in this city right now that live in poverty or live below the poverty line. 100,000 of them are children, right? And that's a 28.5%. They're children under the age of 18. So we know that just like
She like Q-Tip.
generational wealth is a thing, generational poverty is also a thing. So it said that only 16% of children born into poverty are expected to not be in poverty by their late 20s. So if we look at late 20s, what that puts about 25 or so, that would be like, where you're moving into your late 20s. This crisis is generationally, disproportionately impacts communities of color right here in this city that has been voting Democrat for the last 7 decades, right? That's just the poverty factor. We take the time out and we take a minute to look at education. By me being an educator, one of the avenues that I stand firm on is language and literacy. Those are major things for me. As a kid, being able to read books saved my life. I am a product of poverty in some of the worst ways that you could ever imagine. But that's a conversation for another time. So I understand, like, books saved my life. Just being able to read saved my life. We all came up reading Rainbow. You know what I mean? Is that you can go anywhere, you can be anything. It's in a book. Just take a look. You get what I'm saying? This was the thing. So when we look at education here, Philadelphia ranks 92nd out of 100 largest cities when it comes to educational attainment. They rank 92. 17.4%, which is estimated to be about 225,000 people out of the 1.6 million that live here, are adults who have no high school diploma. No high school diploma. And overall, at large, if we look at Pennsylvania, the numbers on that is about 10.5% of Pennsylvanians who are adults that don't have a high school diploma.
And where do these numbers come from?
You can go ahead and look it up, Google it, fact check it. It all pops up right there when you start to delve into look into Philadelphia. So about 22% of Philadelphians ages 16 and older lack the most basic literacy skills. The most basic literacy skills. We know that being able to read is a basic human right. It is a basic human necessity. It is something that we fought for because once upon a time, we weren't even allowed to learn how to read. We fought for this. We fought for this. But here in this city, this democratic city, that is a one-party city, refuses to vote any other way, and we watched it happen with, if I'm not mistaken, Mayor John Street, when he had that stuff going on with the FBI, the taps or whatever the case might be, and then he was still voted in for a second term. So we watched it happen, right? 52% of adults are considered functionally illiterate in this city.
So real quick, PP with the cards and everything. This is where I just cut in on that one. All right. So with all that being said, I mean the overall gist for the viewer and everybody from what you're saying is that in Philly right now, we've been on some Democratic shit for damn near half a century. You get what I'm saying? And with that being said, it's led us astray with pretty
haven't
much
done that
not being
for
able to read, being fucked up, still in poverty, but yet and still we do that. So, with that being said, what would the other party bring and help to, I guess?
I mean, because we had a taste of it, and I just had to double check to be sure. Because you can talk to your parents; they'll tell you about Frank Rizzo, and he was terrible for black people back in the '70s, late '60s and early '70s.
And he was Republican?
Yes,
No,
absolutely.
Frank Rizzo was actually Democrat when he first ran and he got into office.
He wasn't a Republican.
He was Democrat. He switched over to the, and it's funny that you say that because I got it right here. When he was in office from 1972 to 1980, right? He did 2 terms or 8 years.
Yep.
When the first time he ran, he was Democrat when he was in office. When he went to run again, he switched parties. And he switched parties because at that point he was running against Wilson Good. This was in 84. And this was a black individual, of course, we know, who was running at that time. And he switched parties. He was not voted in. He lost. So when he switched to the Republican Party, he wasn't voted in. When he was the mayor here, both terms he was Democrat.
Yeah, but he wasn't going to win that shit if he was Democrat anyway. After all the fuck shit he did throughout the 70s.
But that's what I'm. But again,
You know what I'm
so
saying?
with that goes again to show my point. Look at the history, and again, I wasn't here at that point. I'm not from here. Like I said, by the time I got here, I believe John Street was in office.
Oh yeah, my people used to tell me about the fuck.
So we was all
But
little.
yes, so but again, this individual was still allowed to sit in office for 8 years.
But I guess in that case, you never know who he really truly was then.
He sat in office for 8 years. So what
He was
I'm
a Democrat
saying
when it
is,
benefited
when
him.
you
He was a
say,
Republican
you know
when
what
he thought it was
I'm
going to
saying, I
benefit him.
can't specifically say what the Republican Party would do for Philadelphia. I can't speak to that. I'm not them.
But you think
But
Philadelphia
what
should
I
give it a
can
try to
say
see?
is,
What Democrats are not doing.
does it hurt you to
For
give
black
them
folks.
a try?
I mean, if somebody
What could it hurt? You understand? If we're looking at these numbers of illiteracy, if I picked up those cards and spoke about the unemployment rate, when we speak just about the poverty in general, I can give you all a story. I have a neighbor, right? A little boy lives downstairs from me. One day he's standing outside with a sign, right? He's pandering. He holds up this sign. I can barely read this sign because I don't know what the sign says. So I'm like, what does your sign say? Like, I wanted him to read it to me. He looked right at me and he said, oh, I don't know how to read that. So I said, and we had this conversation. So I asked him, I said, well, how old are you? He said, I believe he said he was 6 or 7. I said, well, what grade are you in? He said he was in the 1st grade. So as I'm looking at it, he's out there with his older sister. She's about 9 or 10. I think she told me she was in like the 3rd grade. As I'm looking at this sign, I realized, okay, so the sister wrote the sign because she then read it to me, but I noticed that the sign was written phonemically. So as an educator, the first thing that told me is, all right, there are some literacy issues here, even with his sister, with his older sister. But I say all that to say, we have a city right now where we have babies who know how to pander and beg, but don't know how to read. That is scary. That is scary, but yet the people here are so insistent upon continuing to believe that if we stay this way, because let's remember the Democratic Party uses phrases like hope, progress, change, forward.
Yes.
They're gonna
Good
But
taglines, catchphrases.
that's not happening.
I-
Right
now-
here in our own city where we live, that you all hold near and dear because it is what has cultivated you, that I have an affection for because I've been here 22 years, it's not happening.
Now I'll say this because I can relate to that to some degree because I actually had this conversation with him a few weeks ago about perhaps voting for a third party if he wasn't happy with Republicans
I agree.
or Democrats.
I agree.
You know, so
I
but
agree.
a lot of people aren't open to that. But I
My brother
suggest
is voting
maybe you could
independent.
just try it. You never know; it might actually wind up working out for you. But I know he felt as if it's a waste of your vote
No,
because
so
these parties don't
my
really stand
brother
a chance.
is quite adamant. He's voting independent and he's voting for Jill Stein. I've heard a little bit of her viewpoints, not enough to really speak on, but my brother is really adamant. Like, that's the person that you should get behind. And so that's who he's voting for. So again, even that is an option. I would rather you vote independent than not vote at all. You get what I'm saying? I'd rather you just vote off if you really genuinely can't get behind either party, and I respect it, I understand it. Everybody has their perspectives, their standpoints, their viewpoints, their soapboxes. Vote off.
And you don't necessarily have to go into your voting booth and just vote straight Democrat or
You
straight
don't.
Republican either.
You
You know what I
don't.
mean?
You
know what I'm
vote
saying?
for who
You
appeals
don't.
to
Just-
you in your
exactly.
community. That's what I
Absolutely.
believe in. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
yeah, you vote for whoever's going to benefit you the most. I honestly believe it's supposed to be an exchange. You know what I mean? That's how I feel about it. I also feel like, hey, man, if there's a third party candidate you want to vote for them. If you want to write somebody in, write them in. And I know people feel like, you're wasting your vote. These people are unheard of. Nobody's ever going to vote for them, ever support them. Everything has to start from somewhere.
I agree.
So
Which goes back to my point of where does it hurt Philadelphians to try something different? I could have sat here and we could have spoke about the violence in the city. We could have spoke about the opioid epidemic. We could have done all of that. But for me, those were the things that stood out the most. The poverty, the education, the literacy, the unemployment. I travel, and I believe Sleeves you do as well, via public transportation, to and from work. I work in Center City. And sometimes I'm just so like, oh my God, what is happening here? When I'm looking at my people, when I'm looking at these young kids who would rather stand down Broad and Albany in the subway, in your way, smoking weeds and gas outside, then go to get a job. Like, huh? Or you on the train and you burning away your brain cells before you could even get to the school building. Or you sitting outside my job in Center City, in the concourse area, getting high before you walk around the corner to the school. And I'm going, oh my Lord.
it's a lot. And me personally, I think that's definitely an issue that community and households need to work at to resolve. Political parties, I don't think either one's really going to do much for that. But let me say this though, because we're running out of time here, and you are our esteemed guest. Briefly, final thoughts, and then Sleeves, you can wrap it up.
My final thoughts?
Election 2024.
Go vote
In the infamous words of my Uncle Donnie,
or no.
what do you have to lose? By trying something different, what do you have to lose?
Sleeves.
So, a lot of jewels. So she came with motherfucking cars when I was making the Q-tip reference I was talking about. Shout out to Tribe Called Quest first and foremost. You throw the clap in the draft for, the Hall of Fame. You know what I'm saying? Rest in peace, Fife Dog. But when Tip was up there, he had like a booklet in them joints and shit. I was like, damn, nigga. But you know what I mean? Listen. I felt that last part about, and I even felt it when you was talking about the stuff about, possibly maybe independent or whatever like that. Listen, I'm still more teetering on the line that a booth will see me on Tuesday. You know what I'm saying? But we'll see how I feel when I go in that motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? That's all. So For those that got it in them, go out there and please vote. You know what I'm saying? Also, too, I gotta say this disclaimer. Like, yo, stop trying to threaten me, fam. Election people. Fuck y'all. Like, I'm sick of this shit before we get out of here with, so your vote is private, but now we can see publicly how much you voted.
Right.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
You not scaring me saying that shit like, oh, I can see you didn't vote
vote in
here,
this
or
election.
you didn't vote, oh, you did. Shut the fuck up. Mind your business.
So to be honest with you, that's not even completely true, because where they say your vote is private, because a lot of the messages that I've got, like the text messages, clearly show that they know I voted Republican. Like clearly. So I'm not buying that.
Algorithm and all that
Yeah, I'm
shit.
not
Like that
buying
shit
that.
been getting on my nerves.
Yeah,
I've
I'm
been
not
hearing
buying
these
that.
they try to just have that underlying. So yeah, by the way. Yeah, all right, so good.
What's your voting score?
Fuck out of here, dog.
Go fuck about no voting score.
Yeah, listen, man.
Listen.
Episode 107, man. You know what I'm saying?
It was a
We
good
still
show,
don't know
man.
the title yet. Possibly vote or not, or staff. What's
Dance
it?
party with Beyonce.
You know what I
We
mean?
didn't
You know what I
talk
mean?
about that.
It
I
might be.
like, I like the vote or no.
You know what I'm saying? But you know,
If you
it's
do
all-
the dance party with Beyonce, you absolutely got to put the song in there. Can't leave the song out.
Yeah.
Cannot leave the song out.
So, you know, definitely a good show. Hopefully y'all enjoy
facts.
and y'all, you know what I'm saying?
Exercise
Like I
your
said,
right.
to go out there and do that. Like our people's ancestors stood in line, faced water hoses, all dogs and all types
Absolutely.
of shit. Marched across bridges, did all
Absolutely.
types of shit for this privilege right here.
Absolutely.
I do not take that for granted,
That's
neither
all.
does anybody here. So with that, make the right choice on Tuesday. As always, it's the Boss podcast, that is. Duke the Barbershop, Philadelphia, to the motherfucking world. We are everywhere. Sleeves to hustle all day long. Staff, my good brother, the beige one. Brother
God damn.
Byron, you know what I'm saying? My other beige brother in the back over here
stand his
on the
beige
cam. I was waiting to the end to get the beige jokes, my niggas. You know what I'm saying? I did good this time. Fuck y'all, dread on the lens. And listen here, we need you back. We got a lot of shit to rap about. You know what I'm saying? Where my crown at? You see the crown on her fucking head? You know what I'm saying? Give some clapping up to Lady Vishanna over here. You know what I'm saying? Appreciate you. As always, man. Check us out on the flip side and subscribe. Peace, man.